Owen Hanson went from college football glory to running a drug empire that spanned continents. He had a championship ring on his finger and a Cartel's playbook in his back pocket. Owen Hanson's story isn't just about crime. It's about how fast a hunger California. On the surface, his childhood looked ordinary: sun, sand, and sports. But if you ask people who knew him back then, they'd tell you he was different. Competitive, fiery, even stubborn. He wasn't the kid who just wanted to play. He wanted to dominate. Losing wasn't just a bad outcome. It was personal. Whether it was a board game with family, a sprint in gym class, or tossing a chip, that edge set him apart. The coaches liked it. They called him focused. Teammates sometimes called him arrogant. But either way, he got results. By high school, it was clear that football wasn't just something Hanson did. It was the path he was going to take. And in California, high school football is no small stage. That hunger earned him the golden ticket, a spot at the University of Southern California. Now, if you know anything about USC football in the early 2000s, you know it was the program. Pete Carroll coaching. A roster stacked with names that would soon dominate the NFL. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, the list goes on. The Trojans weren't just winning, they were a dynasty. And Hanson was there, suited up, soaking in the atmosphere. In 2004, USC captured the national championship, and Hanson was part of that ride. Picture it. The deafening roar of the Coliseum crowd, the bright lights, the trophy lifted high. That's the dream every college athlete has, and for Hanson, it came true. But if you thought that was enough for him, you'd be wrong. Because even at the height of football glory, Hanson had other things on his mind. Teammates noticed. They saw a guy who loved the game, but also loved the action off the field. Hanson wasn't shy about his taste for risk. He gambled. He played poker. He made bets that carried more weight. It was more than fun. It was fuel. Here's the thing about college athletes back then. On TV, they looked like stars. On campus, they were treated like celebrities. But their bank accounts? Empty. The NCAA had strict rules. No endorsements, no paychecks, no outside money. Scholarships covered tuition, housing, maybe meals. But when you're surrounded by Los Angeles nightlife celebrities and wealthy boosters, that lifestyle gap starts to show. Plenty of players looked for side hustles. Some sold extra tickets. Some hosted parties. Others leaned into shady opportunities. For Hanson, gambling became his side hustle of choice. Sports bets, poker nights, underground games where the stakes were higher and the people around the table weren't just students. He started making money, real money, and it gave him a rush. Winning on the field was one kind of high. Winning in a casino backroom was another, and the second one felt more dangerous. The deeper he went, the more doors opened. Poker tables introduced him to men who weren't just gamblers, they were operators, guys with connections in illegal betting rings, men who used gambling as a front for moving money, drugs, and influence. And Hanson, he slid right into their world. He wasn't intimidated. His charm made people trust him. His discipline made him reliable. And his drive, that's what made him stand out. Friends would later recall conversations where Hanson sounded less like a student athlete and more like a budding entrepreneur, or maybe a gangster in the making. He'd talk about opportunities, about building networks, about making money that went far beyond what a rookie NFL contract could have promised. For him, football was just one game. The real game was happening in the shadows, with higher stakes and bigger payouts. And this is where the shift happened. Hanson wasn't just another athlete looking to get by. He wasn't content with a little pocket change or the thrill of a small win. He wanted to run things. Wealth, yes, but more than that, he craved control. The same way he wanted to dominate on the field. He wanted to dominate every room he walked into. That desire became the seed of his double life. While his teammates were chasing NFL dreams, Hanson was already chasing something else. Not trophies, not touchdowns, but power. And soon, that hunger would transform him from a champion athlete into something very different. O-Dog, the empire builder. By the time Owen Hanson left USC, he wasn't just another ex-athlete searching for his next chapter. He was already halfway down a different path. Football had given him confidence, connections, and the taste of living fast. But now, without the structure of the game, his energy turned entirely toward hustling. And this was where the nickname O-Dog started to stick. At first, it sounded like harmless locker room banter, a nickname tossed around because of his bravado, his sharp tongue, and his reputation for being fearless. But over time, O-Dog became something more, a brand. The kind of street name that opened doors in underground circles. The kind of alias that let him move in the shadows while projecting strength. Owen wasn't content being a small-time gambler or a middleman. He thought bigger. He started making connections with bookies, then with bigger players in Los Angeles. These weren't frat boys placing bets anymore. These were men tied to organized crime. People who could make things happen on an international scale. Hanson used his charm and his sports background to gain trust. To some, he was the ex-football champion who could move things. To others, he was a risk-taker who didn't mind breaking rules. The empire began with sports betting. Hanson knew athletes, knew the culture, and had the credibility to rope in clients who wanted to bet big. Soon, poker games and gambling networks fell under his orbit. But the real leap came when he expanded into drugs. Cocaine, ecstasy, prescription pills, products that moved quickly through college campuses, Hollywood parties, and high-end nightclubs. And here's where Hanson's ambitions set him apart. He didn't just sell drugs. He built a system. He used shell companies, offshore accounts, encrypted communication, even fake websites that looked like travel agencies to launder money. To his customers, it was seamless. To law enforcement, it looked legit, at least for a while. O-Dog had it all. Luxury cars, vacation homes, private chefs, access to athletes and celebrities who wanted what he could provide. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about power. He controlled who got in, who stayed out, and who owed him. Teammates from USC, later, if someone owed him money, they weren't dealing with a friendly bookie. They were dealing with a man who sent death threats masked as casual reminders. If someone crossed him, Hanson would send a message, sometimes literally. One story claimed that he mailed a DVD showing scenes of torture to someone who tried to back out of paying. Another recalled a time when a rival was sent a box filled with bullets, a silent promise of what could come next. What made it chilling was Hanson's calmness. He didn't rant, didn't shout. He delivered his warnings with the same confidence he once had in the huddle at USC. To him, intimidation was just another tool of business, like advertising or marketing in the legal world. Only his ads came in the form of fear. Former teammates admitted that while they admired his drive on the field, they also saw the edge in his personality. Hanson always wanted to dominate, and now, without football's rules, he was free to let that side of him run wild. He wasn't content just collecting money. He wanted people to know he controlled their fate. And it worked. Fear built his empire as much as drugs or gambling ever did. People paid because they believed the consequences of not paying were far worse. Hanson had turned himself into more than a kingpin. He had become a shadow, a presence you didn't dare challenge. But that same ruthlessness, the intimidation, the threats, the trail of enemies, was also what would eventually draw the spotlight of law enforcement. For years, Hanson thought he was untouchable. But in reality, every move he made was leading him closer to the fall. Because in the world Hanson created, there were no retirement plans, no safe endings. There was only the rise and then the crash. By 2015, the FBI had been watching Owen Hanson for a long time. They knew he was no longer just a former football player who liked to gamble. He had become the leader of a criminal group that moved drugs, ran illegal sports betting, and laundered money through fake businesses. Investigators had wiretaps, records of money transfers, and testimony from people inside his circle. Some of Hanson's own associates had flipped, choosing to work with the FBI instead of risk facing him or prison alone. The case against him was strong, but the FBI wanted a clean arrest, one that left no doubt about who he really was and what he had done. That chance came on a golf course in San Diego. Hanson was invited to meet someone he thought was a new business partner. In reality, it was part of a sting operation carefully set up by federal agents. For Hanson, it seemed like just another deal, another chance to expand his network. He didn't realize the FBI was watching every move. The meeting went ahead as planned. Hanson was calm and confident, just as he had been in football huddles and business talks. But this time, he wasn't in control. Agents were nearby, ready to move. And when the moment came, they closed in. Hanson was arrested without chaos or drama. One moment he was playing golf. The next he was in handcuffs. The same man who once celebrated as a national champion, who later lived like a kingpin, was now standing on a golf course as federal agents took him into custody. The arrest was the turning point. Hanson's empire, built on years of gambling, threats, and drug deals, began to fall apart piece by piece. With him in custody, the FBI could now dismantle his operation, charging others connected to the network. For Hanson, there was no escape. The evidence was too much, the case too clear. The man known as O-Dog had gone from college football champion to drug kingpin, and now, finally, to a prisoner. But being arrested was only the beginning. What came next in the courtroom would reveal just how far Hanson's double life had gone and how heavy the consequences would be. After his arrest, Owen Hanson faced a long list of charges: drug trafficking, illegal gambling, racketeering, and extortion. Prosecutors revealed shocking details in court. He had run a global sports betting ring, moved cocaine and meth across borders, and used threats to keep people in line. They even presented evidence that Hanson had sent videos of violence to scare anyone who owed him money. At first, Hanson denied everything, but the weight of evidence was too heavy. Associates testified, financial records matched up, and messages showed his direct involvement. In 2017, Hanson changed his plea to guilty. The final judgment was clear. The former USC football player who once dreamed of NFL glory was sentenced to 21 years in federal prison. His empire was gone, and so was his freedom. From the football fields of USC to the courtrooms of federal justice, Owen Hanson's journey is both shocking and tragic. He had the chance to live the dream, glory, success, and the respect that comes with being a champion.